I knew something was off the second I got calendar invited to a team alignment chat that didn't include coffee or a room number. That's corporate code for bring your badge, not your lunch. And sure enough, the smell in the hallway outside Conference B had that same sickly mix of fresh carpet, glue, and career death. I'd walked past this setup before, watched grown men walk in salaried and come out freelance, but I always figured I'd leave Arvista Systems on my own terms. Turns out, my terms were irrelevant once nepotism got a LinkedIn login. 14 years. That's how long I was at Arvista. Joined when we were renting folding tables, and still pretending SharePoint was going to revolutionize workflow. I helped write our first data mapping SOP on the back of a Panerai napkin, built the client onboarding flow that got us our first six-figure contract, trained a whole parade of junior staff who now have the audacity to BCC me on projects I built from scratch. I survived 2 recessions, 3 layoffs, and 1 CFO who thought blockchain was a religion. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't loud, but the systems ran because I made sure they did, until she showed up. Bristol Vaughn, founder's daughter, fresh out of a leadership incubator, which is rich kid speak for dad bought me a sabbatical. She showed up to the office in a leather jumpsuit and a $4K handbag that screamed, I make decisions I don't understand. And to be fair, she made decisions real fast, mostly about how anyone over 40 was dragging the company's vibe down. I watched as meetings stopped being about clients and started being about culture. Translation: ping pong tables good, payroll bad. If you're enjoying this story so far, do me a small favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. Seriously, 90% of folks listening right now aren't subscribed, and it means the world to the folks busting their backs to bring you stories like this. Plus, it helps other folks find it too. All right, back to the storm. First, it was the client success team, downsized to a nimble crew of 2. Then HR, outsourced to an app with a chatbot that once told me your complaint has been escalated to a unicorn. No joke. Then it got quieter. I wasn't in the product roadmap calls anymore. My name stopped showing up on CC threads. I had to ask an intern when the new QBR doc was due. He blinked at me like I'd asked for his social. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel it. The distance, like slowly being moved out of the frame. You're still in the photo, technically, but nobody's making eye contact. I stopped going to Friday stand-ups because no one asked if I was coming. I spent my afternoons revising documentation that nobody read, attending Zoom meetings where I was a square in the corner nobody acknowledged. I wasn't even mad. I've seen the game, I've played it. I just didn't realize I was already the sacrificial pawn in this round. What really tipped it, though, was when Bristol held a vision session and started the meeting with a quote from her favorite influencer founder. I wish I were kidding, but the quote was, "Sometimes you have to prune the tree to let the fruit grow." She said this while sipping a turmeric latte and clicking through a deck filled with stock photos of people high-fiving in offices that definitely weren't ours. And the way she looked at me, like I was the moldy branch. I knew it was just a matter of time before the axe came swinging. But here's what Bristol didn't know, what most of them forgot. Back in 2010, when Everett Vaughn, her father and our founder, was still eating cup noodles at his desk, he asked me to help draft my own employment contract. Legal was 2 months late on onboarding, so he borrowed a template and we filled it in together. Him on his ThinkPad, he reading aloud from some startup blog on deferred comp structures. He signed it right there in blue ink. Said, "Olivia, I trust you more than any lawyer." Well, turns out that was the smartest and dumbest thing he ever said. Because while they were pruning the tree, I'd quietly held onto the root. And roots, they don't scream, they don't beg, but pull the wrong one and the whole damn orchard comes down. It happened on a Tuesday. Always a damn Tuesday with these people. Mondays are too obvious, Fridays make it messy. Tuesdays are the sweet spot for cowardice. I was walking back from the break room with a stale granola bar and exactly zero hope for the afternoon, when Bristol's perfume hit me like a citrus crime scene, eucalyptus and entitlement. She was leaning against the vending machine like she thought it was a TikTok backdrop. Tight smile, eyes scanning me like I was expired milk. "Hey, Olivia," she chirped, dragging my name out like she just remembered it from a dream. "Just wanted to give you a heads up, we're making some shifts. You know, optimizing. Anyway, we don't keep slackers." I blinked. Slacker. That word sat in my ears like a fire alarm wrapped in cotton. 14 years of working weekends, patching launch bugs at 2 a.m., mentoring college hires who couldn't spell API, and she called me a slacker. Like I was some bored intern playing Wordle on the company dime. Before I could reply, hell, before I could even digest it, Lisa from HR materialized like a dementor with a clipboard. No hello, no eye contact, just a manila envelope and the kind of expression you use when someone farts in an elevator. "This is your formal notice, effective immediately. We'll be escorting you to collect your things." And that was it. My name wasn't on the door anymore. My email would be shut off by the time I hit the parking lot. They'd probably already reassigned my projects to someone with a motivational quote in their email signature. I stood there, granola bar still in hand, heart rate steady. No tears, no yelling, just this thick metallic hum behind my eyes. I looked at Bristol, tilted my head just a little, and gave her the faintest smile I could muster. Not out of grace, out of spite. "Thanks for the heads up," I said. My voice calm, too calm. She blinked like she didn't expect me to speak. Like she thought I'd cry or beg or do something dramatic for her next Instagram caption. But no, I just turned, walked past the intern who'd once asked me what a fax machine was, and headed back to my desk. I didn't pack up everything, just the things that mattered. A framed photo of my dog, a USB stick with my old SOP templates, and my fireproof box key. I left the branded hoodie and the stress ball shaped like a cloud. Let the new culture warriors have their prizes. Nobody stopped me. A few folks glanced up, but no one made eye contact. That's the unspoken rule of corporate bloodletting. Pretend it's not happening so you don't catch it too. I walked past the mural that read "Innovate, Elevate, Dominate," and nearly choked laughing. Dominate what exactly? The snack budget? Out in the parking lot, the sun felt wrong. Too bright, too honest. I sat in my car, hands on the wheel, just breathing, not crying, not screaming, just trying to remember how I got here. Because here's the thing, Bristol never ran this company. She floated on her daddy's reputation like a swan on a sewage pond. And the sad part, even Everett, for all his flaws, would have had the decency to look me in the eye. But she didn't consult him, or legal, or anyone really. She assumed HR had her covered, that her flippant little ambush was enough to erase over a decade of sweat equity. She had no idea what she'd just set in motion. No clue what clause was buried in the paperwork she never bothered to read. See, when you spend your career quietly holding things together, people forget you're holding anything at all, until the day you let go. I didn't go to a bar, didn't call a friend, and even curse at the steering wheel like I usually do when some idiot cuts me off on I-90. I just drove home, made a cup of tea I didn't drink, and sat in the silence of my living room, surrounded by all the things that still made sense. My books, my beat-up recliner. The tiny cactus I'd kept alive longer than 3 of our CTOs. Then I stood up, walked to the hall closet, and pulled out the fireproof lockbox. It was ugly, black, dented. It smelled vaguely like burnt plastic and divorce court. But inside that box was my time capsule. Tax records, insurance from jobs long gone, a photo of my first apartment key, and most important of all, my original Arvista employment contract. Signed in 2010 by Everett Vaughn himself, when the man still wore New Balance and microwaved leftover ribs at his desk. I flipped through the stapled pages slowly. The paper was yellowed at the edges, the ink slightly smudged from time and fingerprints. I didn't need to search long. The paragraph I remembered was right where it had always been, page 7, bottom half, nestled between indemnity language and an outdated clause about server access. It was one sentence, 42 words. Half a page of dense legalese, punctuated by a single italicized term, qualifying event. It looked like boilerplate. It read like nonsense. To anyone who knew what to look for, it was a landmine. I exhaled. See, back then, we didn't have a legal department. Everett had asked me to pull together a draft contract with help from an outside guy he knew from college, a compliance lawyer named Marcus Cho who mostly worked with medical device startups but owed Everett a favor. Marcus had included a few protective clauses in the draft, just in case. Clause 12B, to be precise, laid out specific terms for what would happen if I was involuntarily terminated without a documented performance review. Most companies include stuff like severance or non-disparagement in those sections. Not this one. This clause tied my departure to something bigger, an automatic conversion trigger related to Arvista's Series B financing structure. In English, if they kicked me out the wrong way, I didn't just get a check. The company got a reckoning, because buried in the fine print was language stating that, in the event of my wrongful termination, all founder equity would be temporarily converted to a preferred class for buy-sell revaluation under legacy terms. Meaning, Everett's original shares, now worth tens of millions, could be forced into a liquidity event the company wasn't prepared to fund. It was an artifact from when Arvista needed every dollar and was willing to give up teeth to survive. Nobody cleaned it up, not during the Series C, not after the IPO threat fizzled, not even when Bristol decided to rebrand our company values to radical agility. My termination, done without review, without documentation, and with a smug soundbite about slackers, had just kicked the tripwire. I took a photo of the clause with my phone. Then I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over my contacts. Not family, not a friend, not even my accountant. Just one number, Marcus Cho. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years, not since Everett asked him to stay on retainer to handle board compliance crap. But his name was still in my phone, still labeled the same, fire alarm. He picked up after 2 rings, same gravel voice. Olivia, hey Marcus, you got a minute? For you, always. What's going on? I was let go today. Silence. Did they do it formally? They handed me a manila envelope and walked me out. No performance review. Just a line from Bristol Vaughn about not keeping slackers. I heard rustling, a chair creak. Tell me you still have your contract. I do. You remember clause 12? I do. Can you send me a photo of it right now? I did. Less than a minute later, he whistled. Jesus Christ, Olivia. They didn't even look at this, did they? Nope. I need you at the board meeting tomorrow. I'm not on the invite list. You don't need to be. as external counsel. I'm required to read termination events aloud under the legacy bylaws. That clause is still binding. They never removed it. I sat back, the phone warm against my cheek, heart weirdly steady. Good, I said. Let's read it to them slowly. Marcus called back 50 minutes later. No pleasantries this time. Olivia, just emailed you a scanned copy of the bylaws, read page 6, subsection B. Then look at your contract again. I need to confirm a few things. I clicked open the file on my laptop, heart thudding like a faucet drip in a silent room. It was the original 2009 Board Compliance Charter. Half the team that drafted it probably didn't even work here anymore. And yet it still lived, like a legal ghost waiting to haunt the first idiot who thought the rules didn't apply to her. Subsection B, sure enough, had the clause, in all events of involuntary executive or foundational level termination, that termination must be disclosed and read verbatim to the board, including any severance, equity, or structural implications for audit trail purposes. That meant Marcus wasn't just entitled to share what happened to me, he was obligated to. Even if no one invited me, even if Bristol was counting on me vanishing into the HR abyss with a sad little LinkedIn post about new chapters. I didn't reply to Marcus right away. I just sat there rereading that one sentence over and over. Because something strange was happening, not revenge, not rage. Just this cold, solid weight in my gut that felt suspiciously like inevitability. I forwarded him a photo of my termination letter, if you could even call it that. It was one line, no company letterhead, no signature. Just, your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. We appreciate your contributions, that was it. Something a 7th grader might text their group project partner before ghosting. When I called Marcus to confirm he got it, he sounded like he was already halfway to war. They're idiots, he muttered. This isn't even legally sound. They didn't sign it, didn't cite performance, and didn't include the proper severance clause references. It's a compliance landmine. They thought HR had it covered, I said flatly. He laughed, but there was no joy in it. HR can't fix this. This isn't a policy issue. It's a structural trigger. Your clause references the Series B liquidity preference stack. That language automatically converts certain founder shares into buyout scenarios when activated. Do you understand what I'm saying? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. It means they owe me a whole lot more than a severance check. It means they might have just triggered a full internal liquidation review. A silence fell between us. Not tense, not panicked, just heavy. Do I need to prepare anything? I asked. No, he said, you just need to show up. You don't even have to speak. I'll read everything, all of it. That clause mandates full board transparency. It's still on the books. What time? 10 a.m. Conference room A. The board is meeting to finalize Bristol's restructuring plan. They have no idea you're coming. I exhaled, not relief, not anxiety, something colder. Like watching a slow-moving avalanche you didn't start but knew exactly when it would hit. Okay, I said. You sure you're ready for this? I looked over at the lockbox, still open on my desk. The contract sat inside, folded neatly beside the granola bar I never ate. I've been ready since the day she called me a slacker. Another pause. Then Marcus said something that stuck with me. Olivia, you're not burning down the building. You're just pointing out the gas leak. After we hung up, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, hell, I've been through worse in quieter rooms, but because my mind wouldn't stop tracing every thread back to that contract. Every revision I'd helped draft. Every sentence that seemed harmless at the time, but now read like prophecy. Bristol didn't just mishandle my exit. She detonated a mine she didn't even know existed. Now the echo of that one bad decision was going to ring through the boardroom like a church bell. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to cry, or Everett to beg, or the interns to whisper my name like a ghost story. I just wanted the truth to land where it belonged. In the middle of the table, in front of everyone, with nowhere to run. The lobby of Arvista smelled like money again, fresh carpet glue, too much citrus cleaner, and a bowl of free mints nobody touched because they were too busy pretending they didn't need them. I hadn't been back since the day I was walked out, but the muscle memory kicked in the second the glass doors sighed open. My feet knew which tiles squeaked. My eyes instinctively checked the digital board for the floor agenda. And my pulse? Steady. Cold. I wore black slacks and a navy blazer I hadn't dusted off since the last quarterly review. Not a power outfit, not a disguise, just neutral, like the calm before a legal storm. Bristol's voice echoed down the corridor before I saw her. Honestly, the old-timers just didn't get it. You know, like they were smart, but slow. You can't build velocity with dead weight. She was in the kitchenette with 3 junior analysts who looked like they still used TikTok as a search engine. One of them nodded too fast, the other sipped his smoothie like it was a sacrament. The third just stared at the floor. Bristol laughed, this forced, brittle sound like she'd heard a woman on a podcast do it once and decided it sounded powerful. Anyway, the restructure's gonna change everything. My dad's just being chill about it now, but he'll thank me when we're not stuck in the past. Everett Vaughn sat just outside the kitchen, thumbing through a shareholder report like it owed him money. He glanced over his glasses and muttered, she'll learn, then returned to sipping a coffee I could smell from across the hall, hazelnut, his favorite. He saw me, didn't react, just the briefest flicker behind his eyes. Recognition? Regret? Maybe both. He didn't nod, he didn't smile, but he didn't tell me to leave either. The receptionist spotted me next. Emily, young, kind, always over-apologizing for the weather. Miss Monroe, she said, blinking. Are you back? Not quite, I said, and offered a soft smile that stopped just short of warmth. I'm just here to observe. She looked confused for half a second but nodded and returned to pretending the phone might ring. It wouldn't. Nobody cold calls billion-dollar buyouts anymore. Everything's email and silence. The board meeting was set for 10 a.m. sharp in conference room A. The big room, walnut panels, frosted glass, the table that cost more than my first car. I took a seat just outside, in the hallway chair no one ever used because it creaked too loud and faced the wrong direction. It suited me just fine. Inside, I could hear the low murmur of executives gathering, finance leads, legal reps, 2 outside investors, one guy who always wore cologne like he was afraid of being forgotten. They were here to rubber stamp Bristol's transformation plan. Layoffs, realignment, a future free of legacy obstacles. That's what the email said. No one had mentioned me. No one had expected me. I sat with my contract in hand, thumb brushing the edge of Clause 12 like it was a worry stone. It wasn't about revenge. I wasn't hoping for tears or shock or performative guilt. I just wanted the machinery to turn, to click into place, to carry out what it was built to do. Marcus walked past at 9:58, didn't stop, didn't speak. Just nodded once, tight, like a man counting down to detonation. And then it began. The door closed. The voices settled. Somewhere inside, Bristol probably opened with a bright slide deck and a curated playlist of confidence. Maybe she was already fielding questions from investors who liked her energy. Maybe Everett was half listening, still thinking about the clause he signed 14 years ago and forgot. The thing about gravity is it doesn't care how high you climb or how many interns clap when you speak. When you ignore weight, it doesn't disappear, it waits. And when the rope snaps, it doesn't scream. It just falls. I wasn't back. I was just nearby, long enough to hear the thud. The door closed with that corporate hush only high-budget boardrooms can manage. Acoustic dampening, whisper hinges, money engineering silence like it was part of the brand. I couldn't see inside, but I didn't need to. I'd sat through enough of these to know the choreography. Bristol leading the slide deck parade, Everett giving his habitual coffee nod, some junior exec nervously clearing their throat before talking too long about runway and synergies no one actually understands. Through the frosted glass, I caught shadows moving, gestures, someone standing, someone sitting, then Marcus's voice. Even muffled, it had that courtroom crispness. No fluff, no filler, just facts sharpened like knives. Let the record show the board convened at 10:01 a.m., he began. Present are CEO Bristol Vaughn, founder Everett Vaughn, CFO Matthew Lai, and external legal counsel Marcus Cho. He always read the full names. It was a Marcus thing. Ritual, precision. He was the type to alphabetize his disaster kits. For the record, I'll begin with required disclosures and summary of operational changes under review. Paper shuffled. Bristol's voice cut in, bright as a mall speaker. Oh, Marcus, if we can just jump to the restructuring stuff, we're all good with the personnel side. Marcus didn't miss a beat. I'm afraid not. Under compliance protocols outlined in the 2009 governance bylaws, we are required to read termination actions involving foundational personnel into the record, including all triggering clauses and structural implications. Silence. Then a faint snort. Bristol probably thought it was cute. Probably didn't even remember the phrase foundational personnel applied to me. Fine, she said, the word laced with smugness. Let's get it over with. We don't need to drag this out. Everett made some indistinct grunt, the kind you make when you're pretending to listen while mentally reviewing your golf tee time. And then Marcus said it. As required under legacy compliance, I will now read the termination terms for Miss Olivia Monroe. He paused just a beat. Enough time for the room to shift. I imagined Bristol crossing her legs like she always did, ankle over knee, not to relax but to posture. Everett probably leaning back in his leather chair, sipping his hazelnut brew, expecting some routine HR footnote. Marcus began. Per Olivia Monroe's employment agreement, dated March 19, 2010, and signed by then-CEO Everett Vaughn, the following clause remains in effect. Clause 12b. In the event of involuntary termination without written documentation of performance deficiency, then he stopped. Mid-sentence, not dramatically, not theatrically, just stopped. The room didn't understand it yet, but something in Marcus's voice had changed. I knew that tone, clinical curiosity turning into the faint twitch of concern, like a surgeon realizing mid-incision that what's inside the body isn't what they expected. I could picture it, his eyes scanning the page, lips parting slightly, the tightening of the forehead. Marcus didn't pause unless there was something worse just ahead. Inside, someone shifted, a chair creaked. Bristol probably rolled her eyes. Everything okay? She asked, that syrupy condescension bleeding through. Need a water break or something? But Marcus didn't answer her right away, just kept staring at the paper like it had started speaking back. Outside in the hallway, I sat completely still, the contract resting on my lap, my fingers flat against the leather folder. No gloating, no satisfaction, just stillness. The first tremor had hit the room, They just hadn't figured out yet what it was connected to. When a building starts to quake, people don't panic on the first shake. They glance around, check their phones, make jokes. It's not until the lights flicker and the walls hum that the dread settles in. Marcus hadn't even read the next sentence yet, and already the foundation was shifting. Marcus cleared his throat. Not the kind you do when you've got phlegm. No, this was the kind a man makes when he's trying to warn a room without yelling run. Then he did something he never does. He started reading the sentence again. Slower. Clause 12b. In the event of involuntary termination without written performance documentation, Miss Monroe's exit shall trigger a qualifying equity event. Said event will. Everett's chair scraped back so fast it let out a sound like a gunshot. He stood up, hard. Coffee sloshed across the table and onto the deck of printouts in front of him. What? He barked. That's not enforceable. Marcus didn't flinch. He just turned the document around and slid it across the table, 2 fingers on the top like a poker dealer laying down a royal flush. Your signature, sir. The room went dead quiet. Everett didn't sit back down. He stared at the paper like it had betrayed him, like somehow the ink had rearranged itself overnight into a trap he hadn't laid. Bristol laughed, short, breathy, nervous. Wait, sorry, what does qualifying equity event even mean? Like in English. No one answered, because explaining it out loud would make it real. Marcus continued, his voice level but low, like he was trying not to spook a horse. Said event will convert Founder Class Common shares into Preferred Class B shares, triggering mandatory revaluation based on Series B liquidation preferences, including accelerated buy-sell options for protected equity holders. I heard it through the door like a ghost reading a eulogy. Inside the room, someone, maybe the CFO, muttered something I couldn't catch. Another board member, an investor from New York, snapped, "Wait, that would collapse the whole cap table." Everett finally spoke, quieter this time. No, we cleaned that up after Series C. That clause should have been voided. Marcus didn't look up. It was not. The clause remains active under the original 2010 agreement, which was never formally replaced or renegotiated. Bullshit, Everett hissed. I have email logs confirming acknowledgement of this agreement in every audit cycle since 2011, including board ratification minutes you yourself signed in 2018 and 2021. Now Bristol looked confused in a different way. Less smug, more small. Wait. Are we saying I fired someone and triggered something? Like accidentally? Marcus turned toward her now, the first time he made direct eye contact. You didn't trigger something accidentally. Miss Vaughn, you activated a structural provision in a legally binding document, one that, given its financial impact, should have been reviewed before any executive termination was approved. I just thought HR. Everett interrupted her with a snap of his fingers. Don't finish that sentence. She looked at him, eyes wide, lips parted like she was waiting for someone to save her. But there was no cavalry. No dad Deus Ex Machina, just a boardroom slowly tilting on its axis. What does it mean? She whispered again, quieter this time. What does it mean? Nobody answered her. Because it meant that Everett's shares, his original founder class stock, had just been converted into a buyable commodity. And the people around that table, some of them had standing offers to buy those shares at liquidation discount. Meaning, the company had just been forced into a scenario where ownership might change hands. Rapidly, expensively, without the people in that room controlling it anymore. And all of it, every atom of it, was triggered by a one-line termination letter from a woman who thought slack was a verb and due diligence was optional. Bristol sat down, slowly, like her legs had lost instructions. Her hand went to her mouth. She didn't speak again. Everett stayed standing, one hand gripping the back of his chair like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Marcus closed the folder gently. For compliance protocol, I will now read the projected financial impact scenarios of Clause 12b. Please take a moment. He didn't look at the door, but I knew he knew I was there. I didn't need to see their faces. I could feel them, the weight of realization, the sickening lurch of arrogance giving way to panic. This wasn't revenge, it was consequence. And I hadn't said a single word. It happened faster than anyone could register it. 1 second, Everett was gripping the edge of the table, eyes drilling into Marcus like he could will the ink off the page. And the next, he lurched forward, snatched the document with shaking hands, and started scanning like his life depended on finding a loophole that wasn't there. Clause 12b, liquidity event, accelerated conversion. His voice faded. His eyes stopped tracking, and then his knees gave out. Everett Vaughn, man who once closed a $10 million deal while hopped up on Dayquil and Red Bull, who'd built Arvista from 2 laptops and a folding chair, collapsed sideways like a puppet with its strings cut. A sharp thud against the polished boardroom floor. His coffee mug tipped, spilled across the table, and soaked the printouts of Bristol's bright future. Someone screamed. Not Bristol. Someone further down the table, Matt, maybe, or one of the outside investors. Chair skidded back hard. Papers flew. The room erupted like a shaken soda can. Call 911. He's not moving. Oh my God, someone help him. Bristol stood there frozen, one hand still hovering midair like she'd meant to flip her hair and forgot she had a body. Her mouth was open, but nothing came out. Her perfectly contoured face had drained of color. All that energy she was known for, gone. replaced by the realization that Daddy wasn't invincible. And worse, he wasn't going to be able to fix this. Marcus didn't move, just calmly reached across the table, pulled the contract away from Everett's limp hand, and set it beside his folder like he was closing a tab on a computer that just crashed. His voice didn't rise. He didn't panic. "Paramedics have been called," he said evenly. "Please make room." The thing about legal consequences is they don't care who you are. They don't flinch at your title. They don't blink when your legacy hits the floor. They just proceed, like a river swallowing a town that thought levees were optional. Outside, I stood up. No one had told me to stay. No one had asked me to leave. I was never invited, but I had a right to be there, contractually, historically, spiritually. I looked through the frosted glass. The silhouettes were pure chaos, people moving fast, chairs bumped. One person standing off to the side, holding their head like it might fall off. Bristol hadn't sat down. Her hand was still up. Like maybe if she stayed perfectly still, it would all reverse. It wouldn't. I folded my contract neatly and tucked it back into the folder. Ran my hand across the edge to press it flat. Like closing a book I'd read 100 times but still found satisfying at the end. No vindication, no glee, just closure. Kind you earn by surviving long enough to be underestimated. I turned down the hallway. No one stopped me. The receptionist didn't look up. The interns didn't notice. For the first time in 14 years, I walked through that building and didn't belong to it. Behind me, a siren started wailing in the distance. Closer, louder. Inside the boardroom, the firm's foundation had cracked wide open. And I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Gravity had done its job. A week later, the news dropped like a brick through a glass ceiling. Buried under the usual bland corporate lingo and legal smokescreens was a line in Arvista's amended 10K that stood out like blood on a wedding dress. Material restructuring obligations due to legacy clause enforcement following executive separation. Translation? They'd triggered a financial nuke and were now scrambling to contain the fallout without alerting Wall Street to the smell of smoke. 2 board members resigned that day. No public statements, no warm farewells, just a quiet change on the corporate website and a few internal memos about pursuing new opportunities. One of them was the guy who once told me I had a steady but unspectacular presence. Guess steady outlasted spectacular after all. Bristol's LinkedIn went dark 3 days later. Not just inactive, deleted. No inspirational posts, no story about lessons learned or how she was grateful for the journey, just vanished. Like a bad software update that bricked the whole system and got pulled quietly at midnight. The buy-sell trigger had gone through. The clause wasn't just real, it was binding and expensive. My phone buzzed at 3:42 p.m. that Thursday. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, I got the wire transfer notification. 7 digits, no call, no letter. Just a single line in the memo field. Trigger clause executed. I stared at it for a long time. Not out of shock, but the strange, slow satisfaction of seeing a seed you planted 14 years ago finally bloom in a field they forgot you ever tended. They didn't get to reframe this as a strategic pivot or a necessary course correction. This was a reckoning. A clause so old and overlooked it had grown teeth in the dark. And when they made the mistake of thinking I was disposable, it bit. I didn't buy a new car, didn't quit town, didn't take a vacation or drop a success story thread for likes. I just brewed a fresh cup of English breakfast, pulled my favorite chair by the window, and watched the late afternoon sun crawl across the porch like nothing had happened at all. Because that was the truth of it. Nothing had changed. I was always the quiet anchor. The system that worked in the background. The page nobody read until it set the whole machine on fire. They called me a slacker, and then they handed me the match. Bristol had cost her father more than his health, she'd cost him the company, because she thought competence came with a blue check mark and charisma was a currency. She didn't understand that the infrastructure she mocked was me. I didn't sue, didn't retaliate. I just let the mechanisms play out. Bureaucracy is boring until it swallows you whole. People asked me later, friends, ex-colleagues, one brave reporter, how it felt to win. I always gave them the same answer. I didn't win, I paused, I just endured. Some bridges need burning. Others collapse just fine on their own. All you have to do is wait. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old managers spill their coffee in fear.